Okay, I think it's gone live. Let's just double
Yeah,
check that.
it's telling me it has.
I trust nothing when it comes to technology. Yeah, there it is. I'll open up the video and we can see comments and questions as they come in. Fantastic. So morning, anyone that's with us live, do come and say hello and let us know who's watching, because Facebook does not always. It's nice to see who's with us. And if you're watching later, you're very welcome to still get involved and join in the chat, because we'll be coming back and look at comments and things as well. Very excited this morning to introduce you to another person in the group, Jude Beveridge. Hello, Jude. Thanks for coming along. Who is from Mentoring in Cumbria and does counselling and support services for children, not limited to Cumbria, is it?
No,
everywhere. So yeah, very, very helpful for students, especially through exam time, and I imagine a lot more in the last couple of years.
Definitely, yeah.
Would you be able to tell us in your own words, I imagine much better than I can, what it is that you do at Mentoring in Cumbria?
Yeah, so I'm a mentor and a counsellor, which are very similar, working with children and young people. I tend to put age 11 plus. I do work with some younger ones, but generally the more the secondary school age, going up to about 25. So, and I would work with the odd adult here and there, which is quite nice, but generally it's teenagers. So that's my favourite age group, and I help with loads of issues, school issues or family, relationships, studying, university, what else? All sorts.
It's a big time for people's lives, really, that those years through school and then higher education. People change so much in those years, and there's a lot going on.
There is, and I used to work face to face, and then in March 2020 I moved online and absolutely loved it. So mainly work online now. I have the odd person in sort of face to face now and again. I think I've got 2 at the moment, but generally it's all online. So it's great because I can work anywhere in Britain now. So and sometimes abroad, but it's really helpful.
It does take away quite a lot of the extra kind of stresses that come, like traveling and making sure that you've brought everything with you. It's like that you've forgot that you need to bring food when you're going to be out for the day.
And I do find that especially young people, I think sometimes older people maybe struggle a little bit with the idea, but I think young people, because they've had to do online schooling and maybe didn't like it, some have really liked it, and some, I'm sure you found yourself, some have not, and they're usually in either camp. But I find that even if they're a little bit unsure at first, that they feel quite safe online, I think. And I also think because they're usually in their bedroom or they're in the quiet room somewhere in the house, they're kind of more relaxed, I think, sometimes.
That's true. Yeah. And you're much more in control. Like if things get a bit too much, I guess they could turn off a camera and have a moment to themselves.
Yeah, and I've had 1 or 2 clients who don't like to be on the camera, so we just talk and they get to see me. So it's a little bit better than being on the phone, because they get to see me and my body language, but I can't see them, and that works okay too,
Yeah. Oh, it is so much nicer, the world of online. Obviously all of these things were already there, but there was such a barrier to them because they were so unfamiliar. It's been amazing to see how people have embraced it through lockdowns. It's got to be some silver linings.
Yeah, there has to be. Yeah, and I really like it. It's really it's much better than having to go somewhere and hire a room or see people. It is much easier. There's no doubt.
Yeah. Are you quite busy at the moment? Have you noticed a difference between pre and post COVID worlds?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I'm not full, so I've still got some space, but yes, definitely a lot busier. Yeah. And actually during the first lockdown, it's got worse actually. So since September, as we came out of lockdown and things were getting a little bit better, I know they've gone off again, but I noticed a lot more people struggling. So sometimes, how sometimes you cope through an emergency and then it's afterwards that you feel worse. So I think people are getting maybe are struggling more maybe now than they were in 2020.
I did kind of notice with students the things, because there was an adjustment kind of backwards in lockdown because everything that they were doing stopped, and it was kind of getting used to things being missing. But it's very different when you're getting used to kind of going back into everything. So adding so much more back into your life is a bit harder to get used to.
Yeah, I've noticed that the levels of anxiety have gone up. People struggling to get into school, I think, the last sort of 3 or 4 months. Don't know if you found that, but
yeah, definitely. Yeah. So a lot of people, I think, opted to homeschool after the lockdowns when they had to, and then realised actually this has been very beneficial. Let's stay like this.
Really, yeah. I've had some who were homeschooling sort of off and on as well, but then missing friends and it being quite a challenge.
Yeah. I guess if you're going through anxiety, I mean, everybody has a bit of anxiety when they're going through exams, but when you're going through like clinical anxiety, then things like that are very way down the list. It's much more important to deal with the mental health first.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. So, you know, I sometimes see people for a few sessions, and sometimes that really helps, you know, and sometimes it's a bit longer. It just depends on what sort of issues.
What's the kind of general kind of customer story? How would they usually start there?
Let me think.
Because it's probably not quite the same for you as for me. I have a very general story for clients, probably more varied in your world.
Yeah, it is really. I mean, there's one at the moment really that's a classic sort of people just feeling really anxious and really struggling to get back into school and being in school and being around a lot of people.
Yeah.
And maybe feeling quite safe being at home.
Yeah.
So and also I do get quite a lot of people, which sort of links with you really, that are coming up to the GCSEs or coming up to A levels or even going to university and having not been prepared for it this time. You know, I've got people that are doing A levels now that didn't do GCSEs 2 years ago, and feel that they haven't had that preparation time of. I suppose I never thought of it when I was at school, but you know, that preparation time of having to go through the whole exam pressure thing, and because they haven't had that. And people also maybe struggling around families, and you know, because we've all been locked up together and things having maybe got worse, and also just general teenage, you know, problems that we have, you know, relationships and friendships. That's quite a common one, you know, problems with friends, and just feeling low mood maybe.
Yeah, I was talking about this with somebody recently around how teenage socializing has changed so much because of the fact that we're all so online and connected, whereas previously you might have an argument in a school ground and go home and forget about it for the next day, or not forget about it. It can continue all through the night now. There'll be some Snapchat messages or WhatsApp or whatever. It doesn't end, so it's not just school ground.
Yeah, and I do run workshops from time to time, but they are mainly face to face, and I do a lot of work around social media because that is quite a big stress. And like you say, we used to be able to at least get a few hours off, didn't we, before we went back into school to deal with it. But now, you know, that, and I think that I noticed that makes it hard for people to go into school sometimes because things have been carrying on.
Yeah, people will be much more ready sometimes to say something in a disappearing chat than they would to your face.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's made things really difficult, I think, for this age group. Yeah,
it is difficult as well. I think that whole time period, like I said before, it's so much happens, but there's so much social development from teenage years when you're first starting to do things without your parents around. And then to have spent all of that time in lockdown has got to be damaging to social skills and self-confidence. Really, it has to have an impact.
I think so, and I've seen it sometimes with people sort of going to uni or even thinking about going to uni. They're not as confident maybe as they would have been when they were out and about more. Yeah,
absolutely. It's quite a big thing to move away from, like, one thing developing your independence as a teenager, but still coming back to your parents and having them to call, to actually move out.
Massive. I remember that myself, although that was quite some time ago. Yeah, I think if you move out too soon, and then I think there's a big pressure. I think people put pressure on themselves to think that they should be able to handle it.
Yeah.
And actually, you know, in sessions, sometimes I'm saying, well, why? You know, why would
Yeah.
if we're not ready, we're not ready.
Yeah, people don't tend to announce their struggles and weaknesses, do they? So to everybody else, it looks like they're fine, but at home.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I do get a lot of parents sort of saying that either the young person's asked for some help, or they feel that it would be a good idea to have some help. And you know, that's really what I love doing, just being able to sort of be there for somebody. And it is very much the idea that it's somebody that's neutral, so you're not having to talk to somebody who's from school or your parents. It's just being able to say something to somebody, you know, and have it sort of stay in the room.
It does make such a difference, because people that are close to you can take things quite personally, can't they? If you say you're struggling with something, and it's very much they'll see their perspective and think, oh, I should have done this. It's not about them, it's very much about you.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we do obviously work closely with parents as well. And sometimes a young person sort of wants to tell their parents something, and we'd sort of spend a couple of sessions talking about how that they could do that. Sometimes the parent joins the Zoom, so we do it as a 3 or a 4. And sometimes I have been asked to speak to parents sort of on my own, you know, from the young person, and I do that too. So, you know, it is very much a collaboration.
I like that. I hadn't thought about that. You have like can you say this on my behalf? I don't know how to. Oh, that's lovely.
And sometimes it's just we work through it, and then they kind of work out how to say it and have a little practice, or just they find that they do say it, maybe not intentionally, maybe when the parents are driving them somewhere or something like that. You know, the classic where you can speak to somebody if you're not looking at them.
They can't go away.
But sometimes you just need to sort things out in your head, you know, and then it kind of it comes out sort of easier, you know.
Oh, I like that. People tend to, I mean, I guess it's difficult to predict how people are going to react, but it very rarely is quite as bad as the worst case scenario that you've imagined.
Exactly. And I've just put in some workshops that I'm going to be doing on Zoom, and these are for adults, really. I mean, young people can come, but I don't think they tend to. It's more adults. And I'm doing one in February on like a single parent support workshop. So I thought I would just put that out and see if anyone's interested, as a one-off, because I quite like the idea of working with parents as well. But having that sort of discussion period. And when I finish my degree in the summer, I'm hoping to do maybe like a regular support sort of sessions with parents. But that's just an idea at the moment. I'm not going to do anything with it yet.
That sounds like a great idea. There's been a question shared in the chat from Janet, who she also works with teenagers, so potentially around her own children and clients. How do you get teenagers to open up to you?
That's a good one. Well, generally what I do like a kind of a free sort of session for them to come and meet me, first of all, like a 15-minute just to have a chat, and we talk about, you know, counselling and how it works. And then when they do book in, I find that they find it easier because they've actually met me once before. Because it is really scary. And I always say to them, it's really scary meeting somebody for the first time, you know, especially on Zoom perhaps. And then we just talk about, I try and get to know them. So just talking about what they like doing. We end up talking about music and films and all sorts of things, you know. I don't actually find it too much of a problem, them opening up. Some take a bit longer than others. Some people just open up and it all, you know, all comes out. I always say to people, you know, don't share anything you're not comfortable sharing, and take your time, because it's important to get this relationship sort of built. We've got these self-esteem cards. I'll just show you, because I use these. These are I wrote and co-published these, co-wrote them with my mum actually. They're quite old, so they've got text speak in them. So they've got like the number 2, because in the old days we didn't have smartphones, because they were actually, I published them in 2001, so they're old. In fact, they're having their 21st birthday. But these I do use loads, because sometimes, and it's not always, it could be a few sessions in, and sometimes somebody says to me, I say, what do you want to talk about today? And they're completely blank. And I says, oh, do you want me to ask you some questions? And they say, yes. I said, sometimes I say, do you want to play a game? So I do use these. I think I used them the week before last. I think I had 2 clients and we used them. And basically what I do, and I mean, obviously, if you're face-to-face, they take the pack of cards. But I ask them to sort of give me a number. So I count them out. And then I'll just get the thing. Hang on.
Okay. Perfect. I love things like that. I have similar myself.
So I get this, and they basically, I say to them, pick 5 cards. So we end up with 5 cards. And then this always turns into, I'll just put 3 there. This always turns into a really good conversation. So what I do then is we talk about each card and what it means for them. So for instance, we'll just talk about this one. So I make good decisions, and then we talk about what that means to them, and often it's like a conversation starter. So we talk about so what I do then is we have 5 cards, and we talk about them all, and then I said, you want to get down to 1 card. So I have the courage to stand up for myself. So pretend this was the one that they had picked. So they've got rid of the others. So I have the courage to stand up for myself. Then I'd say, you could write that down. You could talk about, I always say sort of stick them on little Post-it notes, put them on your phone, in your wallet, by your bed, that sort of thing. So these cards are, these cards and other people's cards, I've got loads of different people's cards that we use just to try and use it as a tool.
It's like an affirmation thing, isn't it? As well as getting them something to talk about, actually. Much, because people have said this to me so many times and I ignored it until I did it and it worked. That if you say things like this and you can be more positive in yourself, you do actually kind of talk yourself into that.
You do.
I was thinking, of course I don't. You do.
No, you do. And I mean, I kind of got into this in my 20s, a long time ago, and putting affirmations in, even if you don't believe them. So if you just keep saying them, so like that one, I'd be gentle with yourself, and just keep saying it. They really, really do work. And the best thing is you don't have to believe them. So
exactly, you do kind of convince yourself. It's like there's the external you, the one that you're kind of doing everything with, and the internal you is the one that's kind of struggling with all of that. So you kind of have to say that to them and they start listening eventually.
So I mean, to answer your question again, it is just about finding things that you can do to get them open and all. I did actually on Zoom one day we did play the game of hangman one day while people was working with somebody else. So it is just finding whatever's right then to get them. I
love a bit of hangman in a lesson. Sometimes if someone can't remember like a scientific word, I'll give them the first one and then we'll play hangman. But very often they'll get, as soon as I've written the hangman up, they'll get the words.
They'll get the word. Oh, that's brilliant. What a good idea.
Okay, why not? Why not make it fun? That's probably essentially it, isn't it? Try and make it a bit more relevant and fun for them so that they're not uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I always say that, it doesn't always have to be really serious, and upsetting. It can be, we do have quite a good laugh sometimes, so.
I love working with teenagers. They're quite entertaining.
They're my favourite age.
Do people generally have like a regular appointment with you when they get in touch? It's like a weekly thing.
I'm very flexible actually, so I just say to people, just sort of come and go as you please. Usually they come once a week at the beginning, sometimes once a fortnight. But what happens then is, as they probably but hopefully improve, they might sort of just come every fortnight or every 3 weeks. So I've got quite a few people who just sort of message me. I've got some that will just book in, I'd like to come next week or in a fortnight. But then others will say, right, well, I'll see how I go. Often, I must admit, at this time of year, it's been a bit more hit and miss, so I've not got as many booked in, but then all of a sudden they'll say, can I see you? And that's because of their mocks, I think. So they're all so busy, and I get that, so they just sort of contact me when they feel they can. But I think at the beginning, I think it's quite good to come regularly, but nobody has to book in for so many sessions or anything. It is very much see how you go, because I have had people who just have 2 or 3 sessions and feel better. And I've got others that stay longer, depending on what the issues are, really.
you probably kind of get a feel for it, don't you? So you kind of can predict
Yeah.
better than the customer
Yeah.
what they're gonna end up
Yeah.
needing.
And I do say that, I say, and I get young people sort of messaging me. Sometimes it's the parents, often it's the parents, but quite often it's the young people. So they'll just email me and say,
Yeah.
can I have another one? And
Oh,
and that's really good. But I think it's important to feel that people can choose for themselves. They're not being told
yeah.
that they have to come every single week or whatever. And also financially, sometimes weekly is too expensive for them, so they sometimes do. I've also had clients where they said, oh, a week is too short to process how I'm feeling.
Yes.
And I get that, because I don't have counsel every week. I tend to have it every 2 or 3 weeks, so I get that as well. It just depends how intense the problem is, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. And very much whatever they need.
Yeah.
What kind of things is it usually that prompts people to get in touch with you? Because I know there probably are people that could benefit and are maybe a bit reluctant to get in touch, or don't know if they feel like something horrible should have happened for them to need a counsellor.
No, not at all. I mean, sometimes it is just someone I always say sometimes you can actually just be talking about things that are going well. It doesn't have to be, deep, dark issues. It could be a young person that's just sometimes parents notice something that's just not quite right, something maybe not sleeping well, or getting more short-tempered, that sort of thing. And I think there's a lot around, well, we said about social media, there's quite a lot around body image, and obviously their bodies are changing. It can be that. I do actually have quite a few clients with autism as well. So there's also people who maybe are feeling that there's something not quite right. They're struggling a bit with something. But certainly, if you're seeing somebody that's really changing their behaviour, I think, staying in the room a lot. I know that's a tricky one, because teenagers stay in the room a lot, so, and they're talking to their friends and gaming, so it's a tricky one, isn't it? I suppose it's just looking out for those sort of signs. But it is just, I suppose I'm trying to see it as, I often see counselling for myself anyway as personal growth as well. So it's just looking through. It doesn't always have to be, as I say, deep dark issues or major mental health problems. It can just be, God, I'm feeling overwhelmed, with whatever it is,
I have discussions around this quite a lot with other tutors, and there'll be some students that will have a counsellor or something because, as you've mentioned, similar sorts of things. They weren't sleeping around exams, or they had anxiety that was preventing them going to school. But actually, the things that they go through with the counsellor, I feel like actually every child, it would really be beneficial for them to have that early on.
Yeah.
And not wait for a mental health issue.
Yes.
To push them into it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what I always see is, even if you've had somebody, the timing's right as well, so it has to be timing, has to be right. Sometimes it's just a few sessions, and I often think, well, it's really good because they've learned then at a young age that if they do have a problem in the future, they can go and talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And I just wish I'd had that when I was a teenager, and that's really, probably why I got into it. That if I'd had words at school, and it did turn into something more serious, and I think if I'd had someone there that I could have talked to, it would have made a massive difference. Because sometimes things happen, and you just think, oh, I'm odd. There's something wrong with me. I don't fit in. And actually, when you talk to another human, another person who's just listening to you for that 1 hour, you suddenly can realize, actually, it's okay. A lot of the work I do is a lot of the work I do is normalizing things. Because we build things up. If we keep them in our head, we build them up into massive things.
It is quite interesting once you talk about it, because I've had quite a lot of issues around anxiety that were never very extreme, but enough to be a problem. And then through the lockdown, obviously things like that are either much better because we didn't have to do anything that was anxiety inducing, or worse for people. So talking to people around things like that through lockdown, and because I've been talking about it so much in my group, I've had loads of people contact me and say, oh yeah, I have anxiety with this, and oh, I've had this experience, and it ends up being like pretty much everyone has had some kind of issues with anxiety or low mood or anything you like. It's like they don't talk about it. They just kind of make sure that they're functioning externally and then go home and deal with things on their own. Everybody, once you start talking about it, it's everybody.
Everybody, yeah, you're right. And I mean, and one of my passions as well is, I mean, I work with girls too, but you know, young lads, young men, you know, they really sometimes struggle to talk to somebody. And I think, but I've had quite a few clients who are lads, and I feel really pleased that they're, you know, reaching out and talking to somebody, because that is going to help, you know, long term. Because if you've had a good experience of counselling, and that's part of my job, is to make sure that they have a good experience of counselling, and then, you know, they'll be able to go back, whether it's to me, it doesn't matter, you know, or to somebody else. It's having that experience that actually this does work, it does help.
Absolutely. It's very much that, isn't it? I think with girls, it's kind of expected that you're going to get upset and everything kind of gets put down to hormones. With boys, it's expected that you're never going to be upset and certainly not going to start crying about anything. Like, well, that's just silly. Of course you are. You're a human being, you're not a robot. Everybody has things that they struggle to deal with, and everybody could benefit from talking about them at some point.
And I mean, the schools these days are much better, you know, there's a lot more mental health being talked about. So in the last sort of, well, even in the last 2 or 3 years, isn't it, you know, and, you know, famous people getting involved, and I think that's really good. But it's just having that, being able to talk and be opening up. So I do find, going back to that question, I do find that young people do open up once they come. They really do open up quite well. That's
nice, isn't it? I do quite like when people start sharing things about themselves with me. We're talking about maths and science, so it doesn't tend to get as personal, but it's nice when they share a bit of themselves and you can really get to know them more.
Yeah, and I think, you know, meeting you and seeing how, you know, some tutors work, I think it's amazing, because that might be enough to just help them. It's having that somebody there that's a one-to-one, you know, that's helping them, you know, and not everybody, you know, would need to come and see a counsellor. You know, it's having somebody there, isn't it, that can listen and talk about sort of how they're feeling.
I guess. There's not many examples in a child's life where someone is given that time just for them. Everything else tends to be with the family or with class. It's not tends to be one-on-one. It's quite special for them.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I used to do a placement at college, and so I was getting 16 plus young people coming in, and that was brilliant, because they were at college and then they could book in and they just had to walk upstairs and they got to see a counsellor. So, you know, I wish that schools would, you know, be able to afford to have counsellors in, because I think that's really what's needed. And the ones that do have them have got massive waiting lists, which obviously shows you that things are, you know.
When people want them.
Yeah.
Oh.
And waiting lists so long that's quite a problem, isn't it?
It does. I only remember, obviously, again, it's my experience of school, it's not the current experience of school, but it was a fair lady. It was the same lady that would look after your asthma inhalers and plasters that you'd go to talk to if you were having a bad day. She'd have a room full of people.
Yeah. And if you're lucky enough to have a teacher that you really get on with and gel with, you know, but again, have they got time to talk to you because they're busy, you know, dashing from class to class, you know.
So, poor lady. I remember her swamped.
Did you say she was a school nurse?
She was, She was absolutely inundated with upset teenagers who are having fights with classmates, not actually needing any medication or anything. So if people did want to get in touch and work with you, how can they do that? What options do they have?
You just give me you DM me on here or on Facebook, or my website is www.mentoringincumbria.co.uk, so we can put that on the comments below. Or just send me a text, and what I tend to do, I can talk to the parent and just for a chat first and see if this is something that they think would help. I often get, as I said, I do the sort of free Zoom chat, often get the parent in and or the child, or just the young person, you know, it depends. Whatever it is they want, or sometimes just chat with the parent and then we go from there. Because also it's really important to find the right person, so that I always say that. So, you know, if you come along and meet me and you go away and think, oh no, she's not for me, you know, that's fine. You know, I'm not going to take it personally, because and I've got other people that I can refer you to. So it's really important to get the right person, because if you don't have that connection, it's not going to work, because it's all about the relationship.
Absolutely.
You know, so that is important.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'll share that in the chat as well. If there's anything that you wanted to share, feel free.
Of course, yeah. And if anyone has any questions after seeing it, just, you know, get in touch or pop it in the chat. That'd be great.
Oh, thank you very much. Perfect. Well, thanks for coming in and talking to us this morning, Jude. That was really helpful. I'm sure there's people watching that will actually realise that it is okay to come and have a chat with somebody when they need to. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with them. It's everybody that needs someone to talk to sometimes. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Oh, thanks very much. I really enjoyed that. Thanks very much. Okay.
Thank you.
See you. Bye.